Hello, it is everybody's favorite, oh man, it's been a minute since we've done this. Everybody's favorite emo, goth, alternative, BF, whatever the heck it is, Tintle Death. And I know for the viewers that are returning, I know it's been months. And for the ones that are new to this channel, I'm going to tell you, you're watching a video where we're about to change how we do things on this channel. If you previously, if you were had to see my channel before, there was a lot of editing, there was a lot of straight to the points, very professional stuff. And now we're, being gone from YouTube so long, I kind of, told myself, well, if I come back to this, I'm just going to do just regular videos, no editing, none of that crap anymore, right? And I'll explain that another time. But for the ones that are returning, wondering where the hell I've been the last few months, what happened to all the videos on my channel? Where is my TikTok page? Where's your Instagram? Where, like you were on the rise, Tintle Death. What the frick? You just disappeared off the internet like that for a few months. What the heck happened? Well, I'll explain it in the next couple of videos. And so, I'll explain part of it in this video and in the next preceding videos, of course. So I want to get to a very important topic on my comeback to this YouTube stuff. And shout out to Armavation. Like, really, thank you, Arma. You're a blessing in disguise. Like, I've been back and forth the last few months on even if I wanted to return to YouTube. And, talking to you, it's kind of made me think to myself. And with these therapy sessions that have been going on, I'm like, maybe I will return to YouTube. I'm just not going to do all the crazy social influencer, heavy video editing crap. We're just going to get straight to making, talking about serious stuff. And I also want to thank, the Goth YouTubers, like Verbs and Alter, and there's several others. I just can't think of their names on the top of my head, but especially of Herbs and Alters, I cannot tell you. You are a blessing in disguise. I hope one day you come across this, but you're a blessing in disguise watching your videos about eating disorders and stuff, because as a guy that can relate to that, because I've had eating disorders and stuff, and then watching your other videos, it's helped me out. It's helped me out. So I want to thank you very much, Verbs and Alters. So let's get to this, but I know I'm interrupting the video again. I'm kind of playing my gaming PC right now, so I have my controller hooked up to my gaming PC, so I'll be talking to you guys while I play this. So let's talk about an important thing. And there's been people that have talked about this or, similar discussions to this, so we're going to talk about what it's like to be goth, alternative, or, anything similar to that in the South. And for those people that live outside of the US, when you're wondering, okay, what are you referring to when you say, experiences as a goth person in the South? Like, what's that supposed to mean? Well, over here in the United States, right? Pretty much here in the United States, Americans can tell you that the southern part of our country is very traditionalist in terms of values. It's a very, Christian religious place, which ain't nothing wrong with that. You want to be a Christian, you do you. You want to be a traditionalist, you do you, but just do not impose your values. Like, don't try to force it on other people. It's not cool, man. It's not cool, whatever, right? And so when you live in an area like that that's very traditionalist, very Christian-based, very religious, there tends to be some societal rules and expectations in areas like that. And especially living here in the southern part of the United States, you can guess what that means for people that look like me, that dress like me, and listen to the music or things that I listen to, right? It's not a good formula. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a good example here. It's kind of like if, let me think. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. But just imagine someone that doesn't fit into society, walks into a room full of people that all dress the same or they look the same. And you have this one person who they do not fit in with the crowd at all. They don't look like them. They don't sound like them or nothing. That's what it's kind of like here. And to anyone that's ever had an experience like that, whether it's been in school, whether it's been in the workplace where you just couldn't fit in, or you were the odd one out, it's kind of like that when it comes to being alternative in the South. So let's get into today's discussion, I guess, shall we? So being alternative, being goth in the South. Now, like I said, the south of the United States, especially where I'm located in Tennessee, it's a very religious, traditionalist place. And now, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to being alternative in the United States, especially in the south. And when I say alternative, I mean, anyone that's alternative. Whether you're a punk rocker, whether you're emo, goth, like whatever you're into, dude. As long as you're not a part of the norm, you're pretty much alternative in a nutshell, right? So there's a lot of, misconceptions about people like me based on how we dressed, based on, the clothes we wear, based on how we sound, based on the things that we carry with us. And, it's like that with any group. There tends to be a lot of misconceptions. A lot of misconceptions about African Americans in this country, a lot of, misconceptions about certain programs in our country. Nothing too specific. But, misconceptions until you're well educated. And I always tell people, if you want to know answers, go up to members of that community and ask them. You want to know, why goth people or why alt people, do the things they do, like the things they like. Go ask those people. Don't just ask one. Go ask multiple, or go to the online communities, because, a lot of those online communities, they've already answered your questions. A lot of YouTubers have answered your questions. And we're not here to do no harm. You have a few bad apples in every bunch, in every race, and every religion. That's normal, right? And just like with what I'm about to say here, I'm going to talk about some of the bad apples and the shared experience. So yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions. First misconception I'd like to talk about is a lot of people think that I'm depressed based on how I dress. Oh, look out, y'all. He's gonna pull a Columbine 2.0. Like, no, it's not like that. Now, are there people where when they get depressed, they go and they start dressing all black and start listening to heavier music? Yeah, I mean, that tends to happen, right? That tends to happen, Nothing wrong with that. Or it's like, people that become super religious, so they start changing the way they dress, they start changing the way they talk, they change what music they listen to, and they go full on into it, right? Nothing wrong with that. You tend to have people that go all out and stuff. But, hold on. Okay. Ugh. But, just because I'm wearing all black does not necessarily mean that I'm depressed. You can wear all white and be depressed. You can wear orange and be depressed. It's just I happen to like the color black. I've always loved the color black. And this is the thing. I have always worn the color black tops and bottoms most of the last few years, even before I started looking the way I do, because I've talked about this before in a book and on podcasts. I used to be alt in high school, got bullied out of it, and, that really made me insecure, and it kind of made me hold the resentment towards people that were alt, because I was jealous that these guys could accept the crap that people give them and they could still be themselves, right? And then in the last 2 years, I've come back into being alt again, and, it is what it is. It is what it is, right? But before, I looked the way that I look now, I would dress in all black. Nobody would care, right? It wasn't until there was the hair dyes, there was the piercings, and I've toned down on the piercings. I've taken out a lot of piercings in recent times. So it wasn't until, I started doing the way I look now, especially with the makeup, where people started assuming, oh man, this guy's depressed. Because there's even regular non-alt people that I work with, and it's pretty trendy these days to wear like black joggers with a black t-shirt. That's trendy, right? But it only becomes an issue in the South when you're dyeing your hair or you got a piercing. And a lot of people, attribute that with, people being depressed or people having some issues and stuff, which, as someone that studies a lot of psychology, as a psychology student myself in college, and then studying, psychology for a whole year beforehand, yeah, it is true that a lot of alt people tend to, they tend to, have a lot of messed up past, or, a lot of abuse, and they find comfort in that stuff. That is pretty true. That is pretty true, but it does not apply to all alt people. So just because, I'm wearing black or someone else is wearing black does not necessarily mean we're depressed. It does not necessarily mean we're going to shoot up the skull. Like, yeah, depression, it can happen to anyone. And no matter what anyone from any religion tells you, you're not going to permanently be happy. You're not always going to, be in a good mood all the time. There's always going to be things that get you down, whether it be, bills that make you depressed, relationship issues, and I've been there, and I've been the receiver and on the receiving end. There's always going to be highs and lows of life, and that's the fact of the matter. And, as someone who's pretty spiritual myself, and I'm not going to get into any specific details because I don't want like a whole group of people coming after me from several different sides, like, that's the fact of the matter, man. Even if you love Jesus, there's going to be some down points in your life. If you've read the Bible like I have, I've read most of the Bible, there's times of highs and lows in there, dude. There's times where everything's good in the Bible and then everything just goes to hell again. And it's the same with human life, These clothes do not define how I'm feeling up here mentally. And that's what a lot of people misattribute. Second thing is, because we're, dressed like this, we look like this, a lot of people here in the southern part of the United States, they believe that we've never heard of Jesus Christ or God. Now, it's the year 2024, and I know this is going to be a logical fallacy that I'm about to say, but most people know who God is, especially in America. It's all around us. In God we trust. You go to the Dollar Tree, you see candles that have, Jesus on it. There's churches everywhere in the South. We literally have a church every mile or two, especially where I live. Eventually, you being surrounded by all these different things in your environment, you're going to start questioning, what are all these churches? What are they for and stuff, right? Who is this God that I keep seeing on these, church signs? Which it kind of boggles my mind that there's a lot of out-of-touch people that don't think, I don't know who God is or I don't know who Jesus is. And then, you also got to factor in the fact that because you're raised in the South, a very traditional, very religious place, you're very more likely to have grown up in a Christian religious household. So it's people will ask me if I know who God is, whether it's at work, whether it's in public. And it's yeah, I know who God is. Yeah, I know who Jesus is. And, I kind of learned this. Just because you know who God is or just because you know who Jesus is does not necessarily mean that, you're a good Christian or you're a good person. You can know, it's kind of like one of those things where a fact of life or a truth of life, but you don't apply it to your life. There's Christians out there that aren't really applying, a lot of the teachings to their life. And, that happens. That happens, right? But the misconception that I don't know who God is when there's literally a church every mile and I've been raised in a religious household, we know who God is. We know who Jesus is. And the other thing about being raised in a religious household, and I think this is a huge misconception too, I've been raised in a super religious household, right? But just because you're raised in a religious household, at least from my understanding of studying the Bible, does not necessarily mean you're going to turn out to be a good person or Christ-like. And that's just the fact of the matter, right? It's kind of, and it's what I go back to my original point about applying these things to your life. If you know these facts of the matter or these truths, but you're not applying them to your life, then what good is it, What good is it? And it's the same for Christians. It's a lot of Christians know all these things about Jesus or about how they should treat each other, but a lot of them don't apply it to their life, right? And that's not to say necessarily all Christians, but and it's just a lot of Goths. You have a lot of bad Goths out there who treat people horribly, a lot of bad alt people that treat people horribly, give us a bad rep just like those Christians. Hey, man, it happens. But yes, we do know who Jesus is. We do know who Christ is. And for a lot of us, not me, I'm not speaking on me, but for those out there, they know who God is, or they, a lot of churches, this is a sad fact of the matter that a lot of people here don't like talking about in the South because it's an uncomfortable discussion. A lot of churches out there, have abused a lot of these alt kids when they were younger. And it's turned them, away from the church or, left a bad taste in their mouth. And I've constantly heard, hear from a lot of people, oh, you just need to come to my church and we'll change that right up. And then it's the same thing at their church too. It's the same, oh, The just all sorts of just religious brainwashing, religious trauma. And it's like, can you blame people for wanting to turn away from God? It gives God and it gives, the teachings of Jesus a bad rep, because you have a lot of bad Christians who ruined the image of God. And, you're tainting the image of God, which is leading people away from it. And that's the fact of the matter. It happens. And it's just like Goths out there. You have a lot of bad Goths who, make people think that we're these horrible, shitty, soulless people. And there are Goths out there like that. There are Christians out there like that. That's a fact of the matter. So, next misconception I'd like to talk about when it comes to, being all in the South. Hold on, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. What was it? Oh yeah, this goes back to the original depression thing. Originally, when I was talking about being depressed and sad, this involves that. But the whole idea that, we're not happy or we can't be happy. And that kind of boggles my mind. And before, I went and became the person I am now, that's kind of like one of the misconceptions I had before, right? That people like that aren't truly happy. But no, I'm over here, I'm very happy in my life. I'm very content with a lot of the things. I'm working towards things in my life. Like, I'm having a good time playing Phantasy Star Online right now, especially yesterday. I was in several parties and we were all having a good time. Like, I'm really happy in my life right now. But there's just this misconception that just because, you like dark things or you like bats or, you like rock music, that you're not necessarily happy in your life. And the other misconception, too, is that all we do is listen to rock music or satanic music or heavy metal or post-hardcore or, 70s, whatever the fuck, right? Like, no, we listen to a lot of different things. We're just like you. It's just the only difference is a lot of our beliefs and a lot of the way that we dress is different from you. Like me, for example. I like listening to a lot of Japanese jazz. I like listening to a lot of 70s easy listening music. There's some rap. I used to listen to a lot of old school hip hop. I don't really listen to it anymore. Right? I like listening to a lot of 70s goth stuff. And I'm trying to remember what else. There's a lot of good synthwave stuff out there that I like. Synthwave, good stuff, whatever. But it's like, I don't always listen to rock. I don't always listen to metal. I don't always listen to pop punk. I don't always listen to freaking screamo, There's so many different things we listen to. There's so many different things we listen to. And I know, it's kind of baffling, right? It's kind of baffling. But the way you dress, like, how could you be happy? How could you listen to this non-goth stuff? Like, you're not even a real goth. You're not even really old, blah, blah, blah. And that goes back to gatekeeping, which, oh boy, that's a whole other thing. But I feel like those are probably the biggest misconceptions. The whole thing about happiness, us always being depressed, us not knowing who Christ is or who God is, all of those different things, right? I feel like those are some super big... Oh, wait, there is one more before we move on to the next one. The whole thing about this is a fetish for us. Now, oh boy, where do I begin? Of course, I watched some documentaries from the 90s on YouTube where they made it seem like goth was a fetish, or being alt was a fetish, which it's not. Yeah, there's people that fetishize it. And I've heard the argument, well, if it's not a fetish, why is it on the hub? Dude, there's a whole thing for white girls on the hub. There's a whole thing for, thick Latina girls on the hub. Does that mean being Latina makes you, means you're just being Latina for a fetish? No, dude, if there's something that exists, whether it's a race or whether it's a culture or, an art form, you can find it on those erotic sites. Like, it has nothing to do with being a fetish. Like, anything and everything has been turned into a fetish, dude. Well, literally, don't get me started on if you go too deep on those websites, you'll even find out that, there's a whole fetish for, how do I put it without getting banned from YouTube? There's a whole fetish for suppressing black people. That's a whole thing. And even vice versa, suppressing white people. That's a whole thing. There's a whole thing out there. But does that mean being black is a fetish? No. Does that mean being white is a fetish? No, dude. Like, and it's the same with being goth or being alt. It's not a fetish, you know. There's culture, there's community, there's music, there's art, there's literature. You know, it's a legit thing. I mean, of course, you know, people are going to fetishize you. People fetishize races, dude. Like, people fetishize cartoon characters. I mean, I plead the fifth on that, right? We fetishize, you know, there's people that fetishize their own coworkers. Like, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that who you are as an individual is a fetish. So that whole misconception about us being a fetish, it's horrible. And, you know, a lot of us don't like the crazy, you know, getting beat the frick up when it comes to doing taxes, quote unquote. Some of us just like, you know, just like it slow, steady, like, facts of the matter. Not everyone is like that. There's even a lot of people that I know that seem like regular vanilla people that like some hardcore stuff, dude. Has nothing to do with being a fetish. So let's move on to the next topic. Next topic I'd like to talk about when it comes to, I guess, being alternative in the South is, you know, having to get... Oh, man, I hate this so much. I hate talking about this so much because the amount of experiences I've had this last year, especially the last 2 years, like, good God. Bless my ex-fiance on this crap. I don't know how she dealt with this, but it's... Oh, man. But having to deal with people, you know, holding you up in public. And now some of you guys probably know exactly what I mean that have been through this. And other people are probably like, huh, where are you going with this, Tintle Deaf? And it comes down to where, good example. Let's say you're like me. You're going to Walmart and it's time for you to change your car's oil. So you go and you get the stuff from Walmart yourself and you're going to take it home with you and you're going to change your car oil yourself. Well, you're just trying to go home right after you bought the stuff, but someone approaches you, some random stranger, and I don't know how they saw you, you know, how long they've been eyeing you for, how long they've been following you around the store or public for, but they've been waiting for the moment to try to convert you into Christianity or into whatever religion, right? And so you're about to get back to your car when suddenly you hear an "excuse me," and someone comes up to you and someone approaches you. Now, you have no clue what they're going to talk to you about at first-hand moments, and then that's when they start asking you about Jesus Christ, which, hey, man, back to my previous comment that I made earlier, you know, the majority of us know who Jesus Christ is, especially living in the South. Like, there's literally a church almost every mile, and we have several hundred in my small little town over here, so... I mean, like, you can't drive nowhere without knowing who the man is. You cannot drive nowhere, right? Well, you know, be me and bless this lady's heart because she is a kind lady, and I hope there's a special place up there for her because she's a nice gentle soul. But I'm just trying to go home and change my car oil, and I have plans to do for that day. Lady holds me up in the parking lot, asks me if I know who Jesus is. You know, we talk. And what I think is going to be a 10-minute discussion ends up being about 40 minutes. 40 minutes of my time being wasted in a parking lot when I'm just trying to go home, right? And change my car oil. And I don't mind listening to people. But it's like I have plans. You have plans. And some of you guys have probably been on the receiving end like that. Where you've been out in public and you're trying, you know, you're in the middle of things and someone just randomly pulls you aside as you're walking into a store and then asks you about Jesus and they're trying to have a whole 30-minute, 40-minute long discussion with you, maybe a 20-minute, 1 hour long discussion to try to convert you. And you're just sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, man, I don't got time for this right now. I got a few minutes of time to spare, but I don't got all day to spare. Like, I gotta go, you know? And that's what I hate, you know? It happens a lot. It's happened at Walmart. It's happened at, like, I think Dollar Tree at one point. It's happened in a lot of places, even at work, right? There was at work one time just minding my business. And this is what sucks, you know? You can be minding your business as an alt person, but there's always going to be that one person that is just going to try to debate you about your beliefs. And I'm just like, oh, man, and we hate it. We do not like it. It's so dumb. We don't want to deal with this. We just want to get on with our lives, just like you want to get on with your lives. And I understand you mean, whatever religion you're representing, you mean no harm. You're just trying to spread peace, love, positivity, and eternal afterlife. There's nothing wrong with that. But be mindful. Be mindful and understand that people have lives and, important plans and dates and stuff that they gotta attend. So, I mean, it's like, another example. I was at work, right? Me and my coworker, we were doing our job together. When one of the guys that I used to do Xbox gaming with, I'm not gonna give any information out because I don't want anyone figuring this crap out. And he's a good man. Don't get me wrong. He's a good man. Can he get a little upset about stupid things sometimes? Heck yeah, we all do. I have my flaws. He has his flaws. But he came over to my area and spent about 20 to 30 minutes debating me about the way I'm dressed, about my belief in God and stuff like that. And oh my gosh, y'all. It was not too kosher. It was a shit show, Even when I explained, because, even Christians, there's different branches of Christianity because a lot of Christians don't hold the same views, right? It was like one person but it was like a Christian debating a Christian. If you've ever seen those videos, it gets raunchy, man. It gets really raunchy, and that's what it was like. And I was just standing there, and I was just like, man, do we really got to do this right now? I was even trying to explain to him, Jesus, likes me the way I am, right? Jesus might not approve of the way I'm dressed or the things I do, but Jesus knows my heart inside, right? And I was trying to explain it to him, and it wasn't good enough, and that's okay, but it was just 20 to 30 minutes while I'm over here trying to do my job of this guy trying to debate me, trying to convince me to not, wear black anymore. And I'm just like, I can't afford to just replace my whole wardrobe like that. A lot of my clothes are like thrifting or used goods that I found, like, seriously, right? And a lot of you guys know that feeling, whether you're in public, whether you're, at work, there's someone that comes up to you, tries to approach you and tries to convert you. It happens all the time. And it's not as bad as it used to be. And I hear for a lot of the elder Goths, they used to get beat up back in their day and stuff, which is crazy to me. Dudes used to get beat up just for being goth, but it reminds me of when, there was emos that got killed back in Mexico, which caused MCR to do a whole performance in Mexico because of that thing. That was crazy. That was crazy, right? But I'm just sitting here thinking, it's like, man, dude, I got a life, you got a life, and it's like, I understand those people mean no harm, right? They don't mean any harm. But it's like, come on, man, like, why? Why are you wasting both of our time trying to, prove that my beliefs are wrong or trying to, convert me? Like, there's nothing wrong with inherently trying to, convince someone to come to Jesus Christ or whatever. But when you're just, going out of your way, man, and they got important plans to do, right? They got important things, and for most people know you can't just change overnight. And that's one of those things that I learned with Christianity. A lot of Christians cannot change. You cannot just turn into a Christian overnight. It takes time. And if you're a Christian, you're trying to convert an alternative person, just know it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah, you hear those stories about, this person, changed everything overnight. But the majority of people, it's a slow, gradual change. And then even with what we understand in the psychology field, for someone to change and switch gears and appearance and everything like that, that tells me that they have underlying, mental issues. They're probably going through some, actual rough stuff at that moment. Because you don't just, change out of nowhere, like your entire fashion sense, your core beliefs, unless, there's something deeper going on. So I feel like, to any Christians that are out there listening, to anyone that's religious, please be mindful. If you're going to try to approach someone and try to, try to convince them, like, please be mindful of their time. Because, like, especially with me at work this last year, oh, it has been bad, y'all. It has been bad. Like, I'm just trying to do my work, and I understand they don't mean any harm, but it's like, and don't get me wrong, like, I hate the whole stereotype that just because the way we dress means that we're not morally righteous people with morally righteous beliefs. No. I'm over here, I love people now. I'm very much to, trying to understand people I don't, agree with. And it's why I understand a lot of Christians, I understand they're just trying to spread the word, right? A lot of them go about it the wrong way, and that's why I say bless a lot of their souls, because they don't know no better. They probably don't know how they're traumatizing some of these children. They don't know no better. But it's I have overall good moral beliefs. I try my best to, understand people these days, and if I apologize, I've even gone up to a lot of people the last year and told them they were right, or told them that they were wrong. And even me going to therapy a lot this last year, just because the way that I dress does not necessarily mean I'm a horrible person. It's a very horrible argument to make. It's just dumb. But just living here in the South, people believing you're satanic from a get-go, which I understand because it's a very traditionalist place. People believe that you've never heard who Jesus Christ is a day in your life. I understand down here, right? But comment, tell me your views below, right? Tell me what you guys think, and it's Tintle Death, and I'm out. Peace.